Alright. We are now live on Mark 80 Bojang Running Wild podcast. That is a new name I'm giving it because that is the name of my YouTube channel. So I'm just going to change it to that from whatever it was.
Moose Wrangling Wars.
Something like that. With me, of course, is my sidekick / co-podcaster, Catherine. And today we have a special guest. I think I'm speaking to this. Oh, let me move it. We have a special guest today. It is... How do you pronounce your name? Is it Lissa?
It is Lissa. Lissa Peliquin.
I always thought it was Lisa for some reason. And then Catherine told me it's Lissa. I was like, oh yeah, whoops, I didn't know that. Whoop. Okay, so Lissa Peliquin. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. This may go on for an hour. It may go on for 2 hours if we're on fire, if we're on a roll, but we'll see. So Lissa, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for letting me a guest on your podcast. And I just want to say, Catherine, you have such a pleasing voice. It's very nice to listen to you.
Thank you.
I like hearing you talk. I mean, same with you, Mark. But just hearing Catherine's little bits, it's really nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me come on your show. I am recently somewhat college graduate from the University of Kansas. I've been studying music therapy there for obviously 4 years, and I'm going to be moving on to doing an internship at a children's hospital soon. But I kind of met Mark through connections, I guess. So the way Kansas works is that you kind of know everybody that lives in your town. So, like, in Wichita, where I was, you kind of know most people that are on your side of the town. So, somehow, through connections, I was able to connect with Mark, and probably through Catherine, somewhat through Ethan.
Right. We used to do drum lessons.
Drum lessons, that's right.
Because he did it after me.
Yeah.
He would come in right after me.
You had meetup times there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was always nice to see you then. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of working through summer jobs, chilling out, and ready to do stuff.
Why not start out with a podcast, right?
Right, yeah. I'm so happy to be doing a podcast. This is the first podcast I've ever done. And I've been meaning to do some, but, oh well.
Hey, why not start out as a guest, and then when you really get into it, then you can be like, hey, I started out as a guest on podcasts, now I'm have my own podcast.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'll be able to get that far, because I am devoting a lot of time to streaming video games, which is kind of like a podcast in
its own sense,
in a weird way. But,
live streaming's live streaming,
Yep. Either form. It's all just community.
Exactly.
Anyways, that's a bit about me, I guess. I don't really have any more vital information yet, but I'm sure I will reveal some more later.
Cool. Because, like we said before, it'll be super fun to have you on a bunch more times after this. Unless, of course, we talk for 8 hours straight and get it all out, and then we're done for ever. Which I doubt we're gonna go for 8 hours, just because that's a long time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I always have stuff to talk about. So
there you go. There's always something new.
There.
Every day is a new day, and every new day we got a bunch more to talk about.
That's right.
All right. So if it's all the same with you, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So, as I sent you and some other people, I got a whole manuscript or whatever you call it, I guess, that I typed up about my whole view of the minimum wage. So like I said, I typed this up myself, so I'm just going to read it rather than just saying all over again and everything. So I'm just going to read what my personal, feelings of it is. And it is, I solemnly believe that the minimum wage should differ from business to business. If a company like McDonald's, for example, makes a ton of money, then they should have be able to pay the employees more money due to their huge profits they make. Because, as you know, if they make a ton of money, they're not going to really lose money by paying the people a lot. Also, the minimum wage could also go by the kind of work you do as well. We see this somewhat already in hazardous workplaces, as the minimum wage is actually much higher due to the kind of work they do. So if you do life-saving kind of work, you should be paid more than if you clean cars, etc. So to sum it up, I feel that there are two ways to go about it rather than just raising the minimum wage for everyone, as that would have negative effects and not really do any good. We could do the way of, if a company makes huge profit, then some of that should go to the employees, and if you are a hospital which already charges ridiculous prices for patients, then you should have to pay employees more and not be able to raise the prices as long as you are still making a profit. But the big tech companies and all those people, as you know, they love when people disagree, because no one's looking at big companies saying, hey, why aren't you paying us more? They're looking at other people saying, hey, why do they get paid more than me? And they love that people don't think about that and saying, hey, let's all just band together and, change it. They want the big companies to change it in ways they want, but the big companies are never going to actually really ever do that, because you'll always have people who want it a certain way and not the other. So that's what I typed up and, threw in some extra. And then you made a lot of great points about it if you want to, throw those out there and all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have probably 5 points on this. So I'll do little spiels that you can respond to with your thoughts about this. Well, first of all, I'll just say, money. Money. It makes the world go spherical. I guess not round. The world is the world round? Spherical? Is that the same thing?
I don't know. I know I saw somewhere where it was saying the world's technically not a perfect round, because the Antarctica are at an angle or whatever, so it's not a total circle or whatever, but it's round enough. It's more round than it is more round than it is flat. We'll leave it at that.
The world is bumpy.
Exactly.
We know that.
As is our life.
And topics like this are really difficult to combat just by itself, because there are so many other things that simply affect minimum wage, which I'll get to later. But my first point, I guess when I was listening, I totally agree. Bigger companies have more money. They should give their employees better benefits. They should be able to pay their employees more. And they should, provide good health care and other things that are essential for a human being to be able to function in a society where they're working full time with minimum wage. But then that makes it difficult for the small private businesses to compete with, because let's say these huge companies like Amazon or Walmart and McDonald's, is getting there in some places, paying their employees better, but let's say they raise their minimum wage to $20 an hour, and then everybody is going to gravitate towards these big companies, and obviously making them stronger, giving them more power. And it's yes, I'm getting a better paid job, but then all these private businesses, which are essential for a free market in America, are just going to be wiped out like that. And it's a good concept, and I think it's a really tough area, but something, obviously, private businesses prices are going to be higher because it's usually higher quality things than factory made products. Something that some places in Lawrence does is they have altered their prices. Obviously, they're everything is $1 more, but that is solely for them to pay their employees more, because they have raised the prices of their good. And I think that is such great concept because, you know, I don't mind paying like $8 for a really, really good hamburger if I know that a portion is like a good portion of it is going to the workers. So I don't know. That's my kind of like my first point. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with all that, because it really is super important, like you said, for the free market and everything that, those private companies and all those people, otherwise if they see, hey, all these private companies are going under because of, as high as paid that other jobs doing, no one's going to really want to go out and start their own private companies, which, is one thing that, you can do so easily, well, somewhat easier in America than other places. And then if we take that away from the people, then it's like, hey, what are we really doing here? Because you gotta remember both sides of it all, not just the workers themselves, but the other people.
Yeah, and like I said, it's like there are many, many sides to one issue. It's hard to look at it from a single standpoint because it affects everything about, the economy and everything. But, I mean, I think an underlying issue is minimum wage is, when it was first implemented, and I'm not going to say when because I don't want to spit false facts, but probably during my, grandparents' time, or at least my great-grandparents' time, it was made to be a livable wage to live off of. And so, of course, as inflation happens in America, the minimum wage should go up to be able to provide those who work minimum wage jobs, full time, the ability to live off of it. And when we look at the minimum wage currently, it hasn't been increased in a long time to combat whatever inflation has happened, which obviously is a lot. If you want to have a midlife crisis, just look at the U.S. national debt calculator and inflation rates since 2000. But don't recommend doing that by yourself.
Right.
But I think that's definitely that's my second point. $7.25 isn't going to be enough to live off of, and minimum wage is ultimately meant to do that. And of course everyone's like, yes, you just need to get your college degree and get specialties in this area, but college, I'm gonna say it, for a significant amount of people, is like a money scam. It feels like a pyramid scheme, I'm paying all this money to sell the product of myself eventually and try and get a job to pay all this humongous amount of debt off. So unless you have scholarships and grants that you're getting from the college so it can help pay for you, it can be, it's kind of a money scam because you're not guaranteed per se a good paying job after you get out of college. So, obviously people that put in the time, I think, and who have worked in a specific area longer, they get, it's like a video game. You get XP, you get experience points, you get paid a little more than the people that are just getting started out. But not everybody has the opportunity to find a job that is above a minimum wage job. And so that kind of wraps up my second point, which in summary is that I think it needs to be raised, but I'm not sure what that number is because I'm really bad at math. But I don't know. Any thoughts about that?
Not really. I know if I went to college, I would definitely have more thoughts, but yeah, it's definitely crazy. They say, hey, go, like you said, go get, go graduate college and all that, and you'll be good. Well, you gotta remember, you gotta be able to get through college, and a lot of it is money. So it's like, hey, I gotta be able to get through college to be able to do what you're saying, but with the minimum wage so low, it's not particularly easy to do that. And I think that's what people forget, is that hey, college isn't the most cheap thing. Because a lot of people that say that, I imagine, have already gone through college, and the minimum wage was probably better when they went through, and inflation wasn't as crazy as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, that gives you like a really different and good perspective against mine. I don't, I think it would be cool if you could talk about kind of what you did. Did you go to Bishop Carroll High School?
I did not. Catherine did. I was homeschooled because my parents were in the military, so we traveled We moved like 7 times in 10 years, I think.
Wow.
Something like that. It was moving a lot in a short amount of time, per se.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. So, I can see 2 sides to that. But first, I'm like, wow, that's really cool, getting to travel and stuff. But then again, I think of a kid's development. That can be a really hard situation to be in, But look at how you are here now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Him super friendly. So there's that whole like, didn't get a chance to make a whole bunch of friends back then. So now it's like, okay, guys, what little friends I have now, you get a lot of friendship whatness from years built up.
That's really good. That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. That makes my heart feel good. But so you said you didn't go to college, so I think it would be cool if you could kind of explain, I got out of high school when I was like 17 or something. So I think it would be cool simply because I'm surrounded with people who just, went straight to college, and that's what they did. I think it'd be cool if you shared, what kind of you did after high school and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Right. So what I did was I actually got a job, towards the end of high school. I had a friend who works at Cargill in the corporate building downtown, and they knew I was looking for a job. So, my first job was pretty much actually handed to me because it's the whole it's not what for me it was, which goes to everything about is in this day and age. A lot of it is it's not what it's who in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I knew someone who's hopping corporate, and they said, hey, are you still looking for a job? And I said, yeah, and they basically, got me a job there. I didn't have any interview whatsoever or anything. So I worked in an office building in downtown for Cargill. And even to this day, it was the most I was ever paid. I got paid $16 an hour and was working 40 hours a week. And I was there. So, and I knew because it was a temporary job, so I knew when I left there, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm not going to get paid that much. Well, at least for a while. At least for a while. And so I worked there for 3 months, and then, since it's temporary, they let me go. And then I actually started working, and then, at that point I was trying to say, like, well, do I want to go to college? Or do I want to be, or do I want to just work? So then I decided, well, I didn't feel like doing it yet. So I actually started working at the zoo. And back in those days, the zoo actually paid minimum wage. Because people who go to the zoo don't go there to get paid good money. Even the, zookeepers and all them don't necessarily get paid as much as other places. But, I'm not trash talking the zoo, especially now that I'm back over there. Which I get paid better now than I did before, which is nice. But, because when you get paid minimum wage, when you have taxes taken out, then you're getting paid, pretty much less than minimum wage. And it wasn't full-time either. So then I went from there, and I started working at UPS, which, goes to what I was saying, the whole hazardous work. And that's the only reason I knew, the federal minimum wage for hazardous jobs like that is actually higher than $7 or the 7 some cents dollars, because it's a hazardous workplace. So I don't remember how much the minimum wage for those are, but it's higher. And that's the only reason I knew that those places you get paid more because I got paid $14 an hour at UPS. So I worked at UPS for over a year, and then I left the zoo, and then I ended up coming back during my times of UPS, and then I left UPS, and throughout the whole time I'm still thinking about like, well, do I want to go to college? If so, what do I want to go for? It's you hear it's good to go for even just to learn more. And I just never got to where I just never got that urge to really want to go to college, just because for me personally I just had more the urge to just work,
Yeah.
So that's why I just kept doing that. Just kept, I'd work different jobs and stayed with some jobs and then ended up leaving for different reasons, just, because I've gone through a lot of jobs in my life. Some rather quickly, others not so much. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I just ended up working and working and working. And I'd say probably about now in my life, more than ever, I'm thinking more of college, just because, it's just how, some people just start thinking about it later than other people start thinking about it way before other people. So right now I've got to that point in life where it's more okay. I'm kind of, I find it a bit more appealing, I guess, so to speak, or less unappealing, I guess I could say. I find it a little more less unappealing. I don't know if it's quite to the point where I find it appealing yet, but it's less unappealing at the moment right now. So that's what I ended up doing. I started like I said, I got a really good paying job, right in high school, and then worked there, and then started going different jobs and going through all that. The number one kind of job I've had in my life is third shift, which I have found that it is much easier for me to have a third shift job if I am awake when I go in, because some third shift jobs you go in at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, or sometimes 3 in the morning, whatever. I work at Hearthstone. That's right now. And I go in at 11 o'clock. So when it's something like late in the evening rather than super early in the morning, I found it's easier to go to do that kind of job than when I have to wake up after sleeping for 3 hours to go to the job. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing with all that, and which, like I said just now, finding college less unappealing.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing all that. That is, man, first of all, props to you for straight working 40 hours a week. As a kid, basically, I still consider teenagers kids because you're not fully developed, and man, that doesn't sound easy. But I think you've made some really smart and conscious decisions, and you've recognized what was comfortable for you in the time. And because I know, some of my friends were peer pressured into going into college. Now they've graduated and they still can't find a job, so they're still working minimum wage jobs and things like that. And I don't know if you felt this way, because I've in order to remain in college and not starve, I've had to get jobs while being in college. And when jobs that pay minimum wage, you just enjoy them so much less. And for me, I don't know, I never wanted to go to work ever, because I was like, this isn't worth basically $6 an hour what I'm doing. It's been half an hour and I've only made $3, and it just makes the day drag on so much longer, even though I've had a variety of jobs already. I've worked my share of minimum wage jobs, and I felt like once I was at least 19, I'm done working minimum wage jobs. I don't know if you ever felt that way, working a job like that.
I don't know. I've actually had the experience where like for example, at Hertz Donuts, I work full time, but they don't offer benefits right now. I've kind of found that like the jobs I've worked that don't have benefits, or for example, I feel like the less I got paid by the job, I enjoyed the work itself more. But like, obviously the paycheck itself wasn't that good. But at the same time, I looked at it as like, well, for example, at the zoo, I mean, I'm not getting paid minimum wage anymore, but I'm not getting paid, as much as other places. But at the same time, I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, hey, I'm working at the zoo. You know what I mean? Like that, I'm getting to work at the zoo. I'm getting to pay. I'm not just getting to see the animals and experience all that for free. I'm actually getting paid to do it. Granted, it's not a whole lot, but at the same time, it's like I'm working at the zoo. Whereas, Cargill, that job was extremely stressful and, well, not, it had its really stressful moments and all that. And, old friend of mine, she said, well, that's why you get paid the big bucks, and that really stuck with me. It's like, that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting paid $16 an hour. Of course, said job is going to have moments of stress and all that kind of stuff. And then when I went to the zoo, I didn't have really any stress at all. But then I was working minimum wage. But like I said, it's like, hey, I'm going to work at the zoo. Or UPS. UPS, was a very tiring job. But it was a part-time job, but they actually offer benefits. So, and they actually offer really good benefits. Because a lot of people who work there actually would work 2 jobs. They'd work a job during the day, which would be their main income of money. But then they would use UPS for their benefits because they had such great benefits. Which I've never really had a job with benefits before, so I wasn't sure, I didn't know, oh, those are good benefits? I didn't know that just because, I'm not used to getting benefits. So I'm just like, a kid like, oh, okay, benefits are benefits, I thought, but apparently I guess we have good benefits. Like, there was this one guy who was in the Army, and they were talking to him about staying, and they, keep working UPS and everything. And they were saying, they got great benefits. And, he chuckled. He's like, yeah, I'm in the military. I get good benefits, already. And he was talking to me, and he said, for a civilian job, UPS really does have amazing benefits to it and everything. Which, again, I knew they had the good benefits because other people told me those benefits are good. Which to me, I just thought, benefits were benefits. I didn't know that, there was a level of good benefits as opposed to other ones. But so yeah, it's a whole, like, through my experience, the more I got paid, the less I necessarily enjoyed the work, but I enjoyed the paycheck more, which made it worth it. And then the smaller the paycheck, the work itself was what made it worth it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, wow, that's a much more positive outlook than I've had.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe the jobs you had that were minimum wage weren't that good. I mean.
Yeah, well, again, it was like not resale, but like selling things, like sales associate. That's the word.
Gotcha.
And those are dealing with customers and that don't like you.
Oh yeah, see that kind of job I could see if it's minimum wage and you're trying to sell stuff. That's not always the most fun thing, because I've been told I'm a good salesman, which that's something I've always thought about. Getting an actual sales. Because when I used to work at Academy Sports, they have this credit card that they like to pitch to people, and they're really big on that. Trying to get more and more people to get the Academy credit card and everything. And I was really good at it just because of my personality, and
Didn't a guy offer you a job?
So I did have a guy who he actually did work, which I thought he was going to leave his number, but I think he forgot to. But he did. He actually was like a guy for house retail.
Oh, yeah.
A house realtor, and he actually told me, hey, he was telling me I had a good pitch, and he was like, hey, he said it's a great pitch, could use some work, and I'm like, oh, I definitely know could use work, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, even though I was, and it may sound like I'm blowing my own horn, but like, I was the best at getting cards at Academy. The numbers showed and everything, and like I still knew, I could definitely get way more. I could definitely work on my sales pitch, but because he told me, hey, if you ever think about going into house realtor as a house realtor, that's always good too. And so I've always, and I've had people tell me, I could become a car salesman or something like that. And I learned through, just pitching the credit card and everything. And I would always tell new people this, you gotta stay relevant to people. You know what I mean? Because if your pitch isn't relevant, then it's like, they're not gonna really care about it. Like, for example, I had this one lady, I pitched her the card, she said, no, I'm good. I said, okay. And then she was looking for her debit card. She's like, man, I don't know if I can find my debit card. And I'm like, hey, tell you what, if you get our credit card, you actually do not need a PIN or anything for it. You could just get it, use it right now, and then when you end up finding your debit card, you can actually pay off the credit card in store with the debit card. And, she didn't end up getting it, but she told me, after she found debit card and everything, she told me, hey, that was a really great pitch and everything.
Yeah.
And she was like, I almost got it, but I found my debit card. And, I would always use that as an example because I tell people, because our credit card, Academy's credit card had a lot of great benefits to it, but you got to stay relevant. Because if I had told her, while she was looking for a debit card, if I told her, our credit card, saves you 5% every purchase, well, that's not really relevant to the situation. You know what I mean? Like, that's a cool benefit, but that's not relevant to the whole, she can't find a debit card right now. Which is why I use a pitch that I did of the whole, hey, you could get it and then pay it off there, because you could pay it off. And that was another big thing that got people to get it was you can pay it off in store right away after every single time you use it. And like the most, if you could get 5 cards in an 8-hour shift, they were really happy with you. You know what I mean?
Dang, that's hard to do.
And so my best record, which as far as I know to this day was never beat, was I actually got 9 cards in my 4-hour shift.
Oh my gosh, 4 hours.
In 4 hours I was able to get 9 cards just because, when there's a group of people, you tell them, hey, and I would tell this to couples all the time. If there's, a couple, I would tell them, hey, you both could get the credit card. You both could save $15. That's $30 total you're saving. And then if you paid off his or her credit card, if you paid it off, there's no monthly fees whatsoever. So you could pay off one of your credit cards, and if you never use that one again, you won't get any fees. And then you could just stick with just one of them, and you saved your $30. You paid off one, you're sticking with the other one, and then you don't get any monthly fees for the other one. So, and that's how I got a lot of the cards that day, was I just told them all that, like, hey, you can, and they were buying ammo too. And what as expensive ammo is, $15 off and 5% every purchase. That's a big deal. Yeah. And that's why I told them all, I'm like, you guys can each get a card, and that's like a bunch, $15 off and everything. And then you guys could all pay it off, then just stick with one card if you wanted. So, it's all about that staying relevant and everything, and that's what I learned and got to really work on. So, like, that's always a whole, thing, like getting into sales or going to college or both and all that, so.
Wow. That is something I could not do. Sales and thinking of stuff like that on the spot is not my strength, and I really appreciate people who do have that strength. Like, I think... our generation in general, I know it is one of the most, anxious and depressed generation that we've had. And I think people who can overcome that to an extent, not dissing people with anxiety, that would be dissing myself, and that'd be dumb. But, I am too anxious to go up to someone and be like, hey, you want this credit card? If not, that's okay. But, here if you want to. That's literally how I would say it. It's really bad. So I think that's really cool that you're so good at sales. And definitely don't be modest. Like, that sounds like you have a strength in, obviously you doing this podcast means you have a strength with talking to people and talking about things that you set your mind to. That's really cool. That is awesome. But okay, so you went through a lot of jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And now, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, because, speaking about going through a lot of jobs, like, because like I said, right now I'm working at Hertz Donuts. I work third shift. And, it's one of the jobs that working third shift, like, all my third shift jobs I've had, it's, like, the most, like, bless you, the most, like, lonely, I guess you could say, because at first there was me and another cook, and then he had to leave because he had surgery. And so they were like, hey, we're trying to get more, and, third shift's a hard shift to get people to work for.
Yeah.
And I get, I understand, I totally understand, I get that. And they were like, hey, we're having 2 new people coming along. We're trying to make it to where you won't work by yourself at all. Not one day you'll have to work by yourself. That's what they were shooting for. And, that's what I was hoping for, And like I said, I guess, I heard one of the 2 people had got fired, or I don't know. It's, you always hear things and everything. Never sure if it's true. And, they were hoping by the second week of June that I would not be working by myself. And they finally got someone else to work third shift. And because before, there's me, because I'm a cook, there was me and another cook. And I thought, oh, sweet, I'm going to get another cook with me so we can work together. It ended up, that person I got was actually a decorator. So before we had a decorator for third shift, like 2 nights out of the week, or like 3 nights out of the week. And so I thought, so rather than getting a full-time replacement for TJ, who was the other cook, we're getting a full-time replacement for this other decorator person. So I'm like, you guys survived this entire time with a decorator coming in only 3 days, 3 to 4 days. Now you're having one come in almost every single night decorating while I'm cooking. I'm like, yeah, I'm working with someone, but I'm still cooking by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're on 2 different ends of the kitchen and everything. And so I'm like, hey, I like to switch to second shift. And I'm going out of town the end of this month. So I was like, hey, I either want to, be second shift or, I'm just going to, put in my 2 weeks. And then that's another third shift, job down the drain right there. Which I've enjoyed this one a lot, So I'm like, hey, because originally I messaged my boss and said, hey, I would like to, I can't do third shift anymore. I'm too much of a social person to be by myself all the time.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, I talk the ears off of the few people who, just want to come in for their munchies. You know what I mean? Come through the drive-thru to get donuts. I talk the ears off before they even get the donuts. So I'm like, I'm torturing these people who come through their drive-thru. Like I'm talking to them, like whole 8 hours worth of talking into like a few minutes and everything. So we'll see if I'm able to switch to second shift. Hopefully I'll be able to. Because like I said, I like working for them. It's a small, small business. I've never had a job where like I can just text the owners with questions and everything, because the owner, I know the owner, he comes in almost every day and everything. He helps, cook and all that stuff because they are a small business,
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed that much more than like all my other jobs, most of my other jobs. So, it's a whole like, hey, there goes, here goes maybe another job, who knows? We'll see. But right now in this day and age, it's actually pretty easy to find jobs just because, there's a whole minimum wage thing to where a whole lot of people don't want to work it and everything. So, and you can make a whole lot more money off the whole unemployment thing than you can at a minimum wage job,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And, there's always that little part of me that, always thought about it because there were people at even UPS who were able to get the unemployment thingy. And, for me personally, and, I have nothing against people who do get unemployment, everyone's got their own path. For me personally, I kind of feel like it's, having such a work ethic that I do, I'd kind of feel like, it wouldn't be right for me to get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's like there for people, to take advantage of, but not necessarily take advantage of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I'm not at the point where, like, I need it. If I wasn't able to find a job, then, I'd be, But, like, even if, like, the zoo was my only job, and after taxes, I get paid pretty much barely minimum wage, I would still be like, hey, I'm more fortunate than a lot of people. I don't really, I mean, sure, it'd be nice to get that, I don't even know how much unemployment is, but, like, I know it'd be nice to get that extra money and everything, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm okay without it.
That's nice. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain culture around the Midwest that is very strong, like, work ethic, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in some circumstances. And, by you denying unemployment, it's, going to someone else, who needs it and everything, and which is really, really strong of you, because, I mean, well, I took whatever money from KU that they gave me.
Right.
And I didn't, but that's KU, that's not, like, that's different.
Right.
But, yeah, I think there's a very, in some instances, like, not a bad stereotype, expectation, I guess is what I'm saying. Because, I know, I have colleagues, I guess, friends that are looking for work and everything, but they're kind of like, I'm not working a minimum wage job. I refuse to do that because I'm not putting my body through that stress, my mentality, my mental health through that stress, because there are certain extents and limits that people have, and I think that's all valid. Like, in your situation, working by yourself, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. I couldn't imagine working an entire shift by myself. That would just make it drag on and on and on, and for me, it goes so much faster when there's a lot of people there and I have to go through the rush or whatever. But, man, that stinks a lot. But I don't even know what point I'm trying to make, but except that I think, props to you for, like, having such a positive outlook about things and, really caring about the people around you. And I think that's an outlook that a lot of other people could have and should have, but they don't. But, yeah. Okay. Well, anything else to say on that?
I think I'm good.
All right. I think, wow, we're doing pretty good on time here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, going back to jobs and everything, since we're talking about jobs and wages and monies, that brings me to my last point. America, before, I feel like college was so, like, capitalized, monopolized, if you will, a hole of despair for financials. There was, and it's coming back a lot, but the aspect of trade schools and everything. And I know, like, electricians, plumbers, beauty school, all that stuff is trade school. And, you don't have to go to college for it. You are essentially an apprentice. And, I don't know for some, but I know for others, you don't have to pay an explosive amount of money because you're an apprentice and you're working, and it's essentially a job, but you're getting trained every day, learning something new on your job until, you're a professional. And I think the concept of apprenticeships and journeymen is journeyman is like the masters, if you will. I think that's what it's called. But I think that is a concept that needs to come back because, college is not for everybody, and not everybody can afford college. Like, if I didn't have the scholarships I did, I'd probably be in the same spot that you are, Mark.
Right.
And I just think, I know they're still doing it for, like, electricians and plumbing and the things I said earlier, but I think that needs to be an open priority that teenagers and people young in their 20s need to be just as aware of as people who are going into college. It's like a smarter way of not going into debt, kind of, I think. And, things like maybe you're going to college for, like, business school. I don't think you necessarily, in some situations, you don't need to get a bachelor's degree if you're going to business school. That could easily be turned into an apprenticeship and journeyman concept, kind of like you're talking with realtors and everything. Except, it's basically that, except it's like more like an internship type thing.
Right, and if you ask me about that one, like, some of the things you may learn in business school, shouldn't they be things that you're learning in high school instead of, like, gen eds as a prerequisite,
Yes, absolutely. Like, I have no freaking clue how to do my taxes. I'm 21 years old. Kind of sad. But, I absolutely agree. It should be gen eds for high schoolers. This is vital information that you should know if you're expected as an 18-year-old to go out into the world and live on your own.
Right.
It's like, I wish they, I know there were options for electives at Bishop Carroll, but
it was also, you only have, like, 2 electives per year, and there's other, like, there's band, cooking class, computer class, all sorts of different, other ones, and you can't do them all.
It should, I hate to say this, but, it should have been, like, a standard in some of our history classes, per se, because, like, I don't know. I feel like that's related somehow, but, it's just...
We needed practical knowledge, not rote memorization.
Yeah, exactly. I could get into, our education system and all that, and why do I need to take a math class if I'm going to music school? All that stuff. But yes, I definitely think that should have been, and still it should be, a requirement. That way you're teaching the teenagers who are controlling the future of America's economy, America's jobs, America's everything, how to budget their money to spend it well. And like you were saying earlier, you didn't know what good benefits were, and, learning what good benefits are and what to look for in a job. So that way you're not, you're not risking your mental health and your physical health just because you're working at a job. You know what you're looking for, your strengths and what you definitely don't want to do, and all that kind of stuff, I think, is so important. And, my parents are really busy. I don't really talk to them. And so I could, but it's, again, that Midwestern work ethic, whatever. But I could call my parents up and say, hey, is this it? Like, is this how I do my taxes? Or is this a good option for healthcare? And they'd most likely be, I don't know, figure it out. I'd be completely dumbfounded about everything. And I just, I see my grandparents have figured it out, my parents have figured it out, and we all kind of look at it that way, that everybody just kind of figures it out. But we have to remember that this is a completely different age and time. You know, everybody should, a lot of people say, well, back in my day, I had to do this. And I'm like, okay, good for you. You know, you should have been building our culture and our systems so that your grandchildren and children could have better futures, so you don't have to do this. So we wouldn't have to deal with this stress. But now we have new stresses that have compiled because back in your day you did this, but you refused to do that and all this other stuff. I could rant on forever, but okay. Summarize that point. Do bring back apprenticeships and journeymen and implement them in practical scenarios. And I mean, maybe there could even make a track where you do an apprenticeship journeyman, and then maybe you could go on and do your master's degree after that, and that would count as enough, you know, taking some standardized tests to make sure you know what the heck you're doing. But I think that would significantly change our job outlook, significantly change the way we look at minimum wage and what is a good living wage, and give options for people. And that way we can save minimum wage jobs for people. Like in high school, I was completely satisfied working a minimum wage job. I only have to work part-time. I'm still living under my parents' roof, and they're okay with that, you know, and I'm in school, so I'm not too worried. I just want money to spend on my friends and to be able to go out and pay for gas money. And that's all I was worried about, you know. And those jobs are valuable for people who are looking for that. But, I mean, kind of save minimum wage jobs in a sense for people who are looking for that, and give a lot more options, you know, even in the same establishment. Like, this is, you know, there were sales associates in places I worked where, you know, you get paid minimum wage, but you have opportunities for growth and to get paid more, which was really nice. You know, the more training, the harder you asked and pushed yourself. But obviously I wasn't interested in that. So in that kind of sense, you know, having levels, kind of like an apprenticeship is nice. But at the end of the day, it's all about access and opportunity. So.
Right, and that makes me think of the whole, you know, other generations, you know, helping the future ones. It made me think of, you know, because like I said, I'm a cook. So we like, you know, we don't bake out donuts, we actually fry out donuts.
Yeah.
But, like, when I was getting trained, you know, because we have the dough and everything, we, you know, get it all mixed up and make it to, you know, what it is. And then, you know, we roll it out, and then we use the, you know, cookie cutter, not donut cutter thingy. You know, we roll that over the dough, get it all into the shape, and then we put on these racks, and we put the racks into this poofer, and it poofs them up, and then we fry it. Well, you know, like, you know, when I was first getting trained, because me and the other guy, we got trained for like 2 days because we picked up on it so well. You know, the first day, you know, our manager who was training us, he, you know, told us to remember, hey, when you put inside the poofer, it's going to come out whatever shape you put it in. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's like if you put it in to where it's not a circle but more of an oval, it's going to poof up into an oval donut, you know, and you won't necessarily be able to, like, you know, change the shape, so to speak. He's like, so, you know, if it's not going to just come out, you're not going to put it in as a funky, wild oval and then it come out as a perfect circle. You know what I mean? So that's kind of made me think of that as, like, you know, the generations before us are kind of like, you know, what, you know, that would mold us, you know what I mean? Like, you can't throw, you know, the younger generation out as a wonky, you know, funky, oval shaped dough and expect it to, you know, come out as a perfectly round donut, you know what I mean? And, like, it doesn't just automatically do that, you know what I mean? Kind of like saying, no, just figure it out kind of deal. Is like they don't necessarily just come out as a perfect donut, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta do your part in making it to where it'll be going in as a nice circle so it can come out as a poofed up circle, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of
that
like,
is an excellent metaphor.
you you gotta send the younger generation as, you know, you have to get them to have a good start, you know what I mean? Give them that advantage of being a circle already so they can go out, you know, poof up, so to speak. So then they're ready for the fire and glaze and decorations and all that.
That is an excellent point. I think a lot of people tend, at least generations to each other, you know, Gen Z is like, okay, boomer, and boomers are like, okay, Gen Z, whatever. But in reality, there's like a big point to it, you know. The boomers and the Gen Xers and millennials, you know, are what raised this generation and have molded us. So, you know, if you're looking down upon other generations, it's just gonna make it worse, you know.
Right.
Saying back in my day, this is what I did, or, you know, because like you said, it's literally molding. You created the mold, and, you know, you set them on the mold in order for them to become what they are. And see, I love my grandparents, because they, even with streaming stuff, and I'll be like, I know they don't entirely understand, like, why I'm doing it, but, you know, they just laugh and are like, okay, sounds good, or whatever, you know. Or I always say, my hair's getting pretty long now, and I tend to like defying gender norms, if you will, just because of who I am. But I always say, someday I'm going to shave my head and just go bald, and it'll be fantastic. And I see the horror in my grandparents' eyes. They're like, why? But they're still like, okay, I mean, we'll support you. Like, I don't understand why, but, you know, go for it. And I definitely, you know, the younger generation isn't going to understand the older generation and the things they had to deal with and things they have to struggle with. But same vice versa with older generation and younger generation. You know, they don't, not to an extent, fully understand what it's like to be immersed in so much freaking technology so fast, and for it to be pushed and used, you know, in some of the circumstances it's good, but at such a young age they didn't have that, and they won't be able to experience how that affected brain development, how it affected them getting a job and being trained in a job and all that stuff. So that was an excellent metaphor, though. I hope that I can remold myself into a poofed up circle donuts, and we can help mold the future generation, which is so weird to think about. Weird, but mold them into more poofed up donuts, so that we can be poofed up donuts in whatever flavors and decorations and sizes, and all be sane enough to not go to work. But that's my thoughts anyways.
Right, and then there's a whole, you know, when you look at it, you know, their generation, you know, like, let's say 2 generations after us, you know, it might be to where, you know, it's so different, you know, that, you know, because, you know, when you look at the past generation, they probably couldn't imagine, you know, how crazy it is now, you know what I mean? It's like 2 generations from now, it could be to where you don't struggle with money at all, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and we can only hope.
Like, right, and to us that is such a foreign thing that you look at it and it's like, you know, you look at it like not struggling with money is a very foreign thing to us, whereas, you know, 2 generations ago, struggling with money as much as we do, you know, would have been such a foreign thing to them.
Yes.
You know, so like in 2 generations from now, you know, I mean, you know, they won't know what we had, you know, what we've had to go through, and we won't know what, you know, the stuff they have, because, you know, that's, you know, hoping that they don't struggle with money as much as we do, you know, that just means, you know, they're going to struggle with something else that we necessarily wouldn't have. So, like you said, you know, we can't imagine what they're going to go through, and they can't ever imagine what we're going to go through just because that whole difference. And Just because I feel like now more than ever, this kind. I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe it was like this way back when, but like the whole like, I guess you could kind of say feud between the generations, so to speak. Way more now than ever. Like, well, because of that, it might be to where we don't have that. You know. But when you look at the people who have, like you said, who make it worse by doing the whole okay boomer. I can see those people turning into the people nowadays who say okay gen people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you like that now, what's to stop you from doing that when you're the older generation, and then there's a younger generation? You might not do it the same way, but I can still see it, and then they'll just have that, effect, that domino effect of like, there'll always be that whole, they'll be like, oh, before they know it, they'll turn into the whole back in my day,
Yeah.
I had to work 3 jobs just to barely get by and everything, and so it's like it's gonna be crazy to see how that turns out. Part of me when you see the people, I mean, me personally, when you see the younger generation who like do the whole okay boomer and all that, it's like kind of exciting to see when the tables are turned, and then you're gonna have to put up with that, and then it's like now you guys know what you put the older generation through, because now you're the older generation. I'm gonna look at them as like, ain't so nice now, is it, fellow oldie?
Yeah, it's a fact that we're all gonna get old, and eventually, it'll
Right.
change. Everything will change, and that's a good thing. It's just the way the world works, and
Yeah.
it's the way the world is supposed to work. But, dang it, I had a thought and I forgot about it. It's about generations. Probably not gonna remember it because I'm old. I have a forgetful brain.
Me
But-
too.
Yeah, it's gone forever. Oh well. Maybe I'll think of it tonight.
Right. You have an epiphany during your dream,
I will. I definitely will. It always happens. I
and
hate
then
that.
we wake up and then forget what that epiphany was
Yep.
because we don't remember the dream.
That's why you always have a notepad by your bed, or at least
Oh yeah.
I do. It's fun. It's fun to write down those dreams and everything. Anyways, well, I think that pretty well covers my minimum wage and learning about jobs topic. Anyways, did you want to keep going with things, or did you want to save it for next time, or I'm down for whatever.
Well, like you said, I think we definitely covered the whole minimum wage thingy. If you wanted, we could start off the next time, with all the, different questions you had. We could start it off with those.
Yeah,
You know.
I'd be down.
That'd be good. Just because, this one we hit the minimum wage thing down pretty good. Next time we could just start off with questions and everything, and then while we do that, we might think of more questions and all that kind of stuff. And then that might just be the whole next podcast. It's just about a Q&A with each other.
Q&A. I like it. And on that topic, I'm not sure who entirely is your audience, but for those viewers who are not necessarily in our generation, like we said, we'll never be fully able to understand. I mean, no person is going to exactly perfectly understand another person. That's why, obviously I'm religious. God made us each differently with our own strengths, weaknesses, and our own experiences. At least that's what I believe.
Right.
And and it's an inherent fact that we're all different. And so, I'd love, I don't know if you can comment on this video or something, but if there's something that you're like, oh, well, this was completely different when I was a kid, or I am a kid and this is how things are now. I would love to hear the different perspectives, because obviously I'm a 21-year-old white female. I have a very, very privileged and different perspective than even the person who has invited me on this podcast, and the person who is helping out with the podcast, and every single person that is listening. And regarding minimum wage, obviously, I've just been spewing off what I've learned about Kansas and what I've dealt with in my own personal experiences. But if there's an experience where you're like, no, this happened to me, and this is like what I think would be good to do, like, I would love to hear it, or read it, or see it typed, or whatever. But I don't know about you, but I think it's good to get all those perspectives, and I would love, if anyone reaches out to you, you could share those perhaps on the next podcast, so we could talk about them a little bit.
Okay, for sure. And, to what you said about the whole, like, we'll never truly understand each other and everything, there's a whole old saying, which I always enjoy, is that, to truly understand someone's joy that they have, you have to first experience the sorrow and pain they went through to get to that. And obviously you're never going to, and that's kind of like the whole thing is, you're never going to experience that same, pain and sorrow they had, so you never actually, truly understand their joy that they have.
Yeah.
So that's to add on to that. Do you want to say anything, Catherine?
I think you guys summed it up really good.
Thanks.
I don't got much more to add.
All right, well, so yeah, the next podcast, we can go and just start off with all those questions, and we could do a whole Q&A, because who knows, maybe each question will turn into like a 10-minute conversation. And then
Probably will.
and then if you have 6 questions, that's a good hour right there.
True.
So it's a good idea for a podcast right there.
Awesome.
Looks like
Yep.
we've made it
I'll
about
have
an
my
hour for
questions.
this one.
Yeah, this one's been about an hour. So see, we had an hour podcast right now. Well, let's see, what is it? An hour and 7 minutes. So
Nice.
I think that's pretty
Go
good.
us.
Yeah. It was less than an hour and a half. I definitely cannot imagine what a 2-hour podcast would be like, to be honest.
No idea. Probably like the typewriter one, the typewriter YouTube that you joined,
Oh, yeah.
where they're just eating
Oh.
on it and listening. And
Right, they do that for like 3 to 4 hours. Okay, well, I think that sums it up, unless you want to say anything else.
You can check out my Twitch if you want.
Oh, yeah, she has a Twitch where she plays games.
My Twitch handle is well, I guess use it. LANAYROO. Laneru. And you, Mark, come on sometimes. I appreciate when you come on and chat. That's
Oh, yeah.
always nice when you have time.
Definitely.
But
And I'll throw the link of your Twitch in the description, too.
cool.
So that way people can find and be like, oh, okay. See what kind of games this person plays.
It's nothing special. I just like talking to people. That's pretty much it.
All right, well, yeah, I think that sums it up pretty good. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for letting me be a guest on your podcast. I am grateful that you wanted to hear my opinions about things. I don't really share my opinions too
All right,
often.
thanks for coming on. It was really fun.
Yeah, no problem. I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. See you next time.
see you next time.
Bye.
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 How do you